and welcome to another edition of the Chartered Career Chat series. Today I am delighted to join Eoin McMullan of Hill Vellacott. Eoin, how are you today?
I'm great, Sinead. How are you?
I am good. Welcome and thanks for joining the series.
I'm laughing. You picked the best day of the week to do this. So you have. We could have done it outside, but I don't think the cameras would have picked up too well.
I was thinking you were subtly hitting there with let's wrap this up so you can get outside and get your barbecue on.
Not quite.
Well, look, it's great to have you, and I know a bit about your CV and your history per se. Would you mind, for the benefits of those tuning in, Eoin, share where are you up to in your chartered journey?
Okay. Well, it's probably best to my current role. I'm a manager in Hill Vellacott, and I suppose my area of specialty is around forensics and corporate finance. But it's quite a broad remit. And given the size of firm we are, mid-tier firm, you end up doing a bit of everything. You know what it's like. You don't just end up in one specific area. So client portfolio and all the rest that goes along with it. So that's kind of day to day now. I suppose I started out studying in Queen's in straight accountancy, and I come out of that and into Hill Vellacott to train, and I spent 3 years there training up through the ranks and doing all my wonderful chartered exams along the way. And I got to the end of my FAEs and I got admitted to the institute, and I said I will never do another exam again. And about 6 months after that, I found myself in Dublin doing the diploma in forensic accounting with Chartered Accountants Ireland as well. So you guys hooked me back in. But no, that was good, and I suppose that's really what was the foundation, the bedrock for me to progress up into the position I'm currently in and widen my portfolio of work out into the areas I'm doing now. So it is.
Brilliant. I love always hearing the stories. Can I get you to even rewind a bit further? At what point, did you get on the accountancy track? You studied at university, I heard you say there. Did you always know you wanted to be a chartered accountant?
That's an interesting question, Sinead. No, in simple terms, no, it didn't. No, I always wanted to be a chartered accountant. From I was quite young, I was always involved in different business ideas and different bits and pieces, and bit of a background in the events world and various routes and through that. And I remember, did that through school, and I remember coming to the end of school and deciding, what you have all those dreaded questions of what do you want to do after school. And I looked at lots of different careers, and one of the things that stood out to me was that I remember looking down the FTSE list and looking at board composition. So I always knew I wanted to go into something business related, and I always knew I wanted a degree that would give me the flexibility and the opportunity to do that. And when I looked at the board compositions, there were a high number of accountants and those with an accounting background at board level. So that kind of made my decision that if I'm going to go on and do a degree, I'll do something that would link straight back into the business world, and that was what brought me to accountancy. So no, I didn't realize it was something I wanted to do, but that was very much my driver for it. And the funny thing is, I remember even when I went to train initially, I remember chatting to the guys who interviewed me at the time and saying, I will be here for my training, but I don't know if I'll stay much longer after that, because at that point I was always thinking, right, I want to get back out into the business world. But it's funny when you actually start experiencing things, how much a firm like Hill Vellacott with a fantastic client base and clients in many different industries. I just used that as a great opportunity to actually learn more about business and about our clients and how our clients function and how different businesses and different industries function. But yeah, so short answer, no, I didn't know I wanted to be an accountant, and now I've ended up as one, and I'm still an accountant.
You touched on something there, the business piece, and we see business leadership as very much being a vein through the qualification. It's a business leadership credential. Would you agree with that, Eoin?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And I suppose that was probably the strand. I probably didn't realize that at the time when I was choosing it, but that was definitely the strand that brought me towards accountancy, was the fact that it prepares you, gives you the all-round skills to be involved in business, and the skills required to understand the running of businesses and ultimately run businesses and advise in businesses. And I find that very, very helpful and very beneficial to date.
You are a busy man. I know you've lots of extracurricular interests, let's call them, and you have touched on it already, from a young age, those commercial maybe ventures starting out, and even involvement in Queen's University. Would you tell us a bit more about Eoin behind the scenes, behind the ACA designation?
And somebody once reflected that it's what do you do during the day and what do you do at night? It's your two lives, really, isn't it?
Jekyll and Hyde, I hope not.
nothing bad. But no, during I suppose I always enjoyed it was events. From looking at the business angle first, it was events was my background, specifically in probably event management, logistics, that kind of thing. And there were a lot of strands and are a lot of strands in that relate to any business. When you're out running concerts in the middle of a large field with 10,000 people, it's there's a lot of moving parts there. So it's a bit like a business, and that was very much kind of my bedrock in that. I still do a wee bit in the events world. I'd say now it's not really a career. It's just more for the enjoyment and the crack, and it's my release. A bit like you and your love of drama as well. It's the things we do on the side. But moving on to Queen's. Queen's was an interesting one. I suppose when I studied accountancy at Queen's, I did a lot more outside of just the I was going to say the 9 to 5 studying, but it wasn't even the 3 or 4 hours a day that you were doing in the degree. And I was involved in a lot of different clubs and societies, a lot of different moving parts in the university. And I realized when I come out the other side that I'd gained so much from that. And that was very much what all of those extra things are really what made me the person I am today. And I wanted to then give back. So I got involved with the Graduate Association, first of all. I then moved on to being involved now with Convocation and sit on the board, the Senate, as a trustee of the university as well. And it's very much a case you start giving back, but you can't get away. Once you're there, it's very difficult to. But it was very much just about giving back and making sure others had the opportunities that I got, because I think that those extra things, it's a bit like when you're studying with Chartered Accountants Ireland. It's going to classes on a Friday evening are brilliant, on a Saturday, but it's usually the crack you have after the Friday evening class or the Saturday class that you build those relationships and the bits that help you widen out your career just beyond the 9 to 5 work as well. So it is.
It's fantastic to hear all of the stories of the people that come along and chat to me, and I love hearing that those sort of personal elements as well being brought to life. Do you see the qualification as having a real impact on your career progression to date? And I know you touched on the forensics diploma that you carried out. We're obviously here as a lifelong career partner. There's maybe a misconception. You get the qualification, as you say, and you go. But we're here to sort of stand by our members and partner with them as they continually professionally develop. Has it had an impact on your career?
I would say definitely. Yeah. I mean, a chartered accountant, having that those letters after your name are so important, and something fantastic to have in your CV. It opens up doors and allows you round tables that you wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to get, even with the involvement with the likes of Queen's and things like that. Everybody wants a chartered accountant. So whether it's actually direct career progression, or whether it's progression through ancillary things, chartered accountants are very much sought after at all times. And I think, although I suppose touching back on the business things, and my interest always in business, I think that was probably a driver towards Chartered Accountants Ireland, becoming a chartered accountant full stop, was the fact that it gives you just such a broad base to move across into anything you really want to do. So yeah, I think it's fantastic for your career. I think it's vital. You wouldn't get the opportunities you get without having it. So you wouldn't, and especially the likes of the diploma afterwards. Again, that was a decision where I wanted to broaden out my my skill set and my base, and it was the first place to turn to when you get the little booklet in with all the CPD stuff in it, and you see the other opportunities and things that are there. It's really good, and I couldn't recommend that side of it enough either. And I probably would see myself going down and maybe doing another diploma at some point as well, just because it's the experiences you get and the practical experiences you get through doing that, which were very good. I remember when we were down obviously they're all led out of the Dublin office, but whenever we were doing the forensics diploma, the number of people who come in and speak to you from working in the, when I say the real life scenarios, but people who are out there doing it on a day-to-day basis, whether it's in firms or whether it's through the likes of the guards in the south and the police and things like that, it's fantastic, and you wouldn't get that anywhere else either. So you wouldn't. So no, very much recommend it.
Oh, it's great to hear all that positivity. In terms of traits or qualities, Eoin, is there any particular types of characteristics you think people should have if they're going down a chartered accountancy route? I sometimes think there's a misconception, well, you need to be a maths wizard, or you need to be a complete and utter genius when it comes to numbers. But sometimes when you unravel it a bit more, it's actually much bigger than that. Like, as I said before, it's business leadership. But are there traits or anything that stands out to you that you think folks should think about when they think about chartered accountants?
Yeah, again, I was always very good at maths, but that wasn't actually my driver into accountancy, and people always thought it was. They always thought maths, accountancy, that's it. Do you know, when we're recruiting, Sinead and I look after a lot of our recruitment in the firm as well. If I'm interviewing, one of the things I want to hear from people is the words problem solving, because I think being an accountant is being a problem solver. And for me, those are some of the problem solving analytical skills, being able to take a set of numbers and actually drill down into them and understand what they mean for that business. And it's funny because when we're reviewing files that the members of staff have done, you're sitting down and talking through, well, how'd you get on with the client, and can you tell me a wee bit about what's going on this year? The people who jump out are the people who can say, well, I understand that the business is doing X, they've got new people in, they've bought some new machinery, I can see the margins have gone up. It's that it's that analytics, it's been able to problem solve, and then it's been able to advise and bring that value back to clients as well. I think that's vital. So it is. Maths, sure, that's what we use Excel sheets for these days, and the calculators, or the abacuses, as you mentioned as well.
Absolutely. That critical thinking piece, I think, is so important. And the other one that I feel strongly about personally is communication skills. There's maybe again that stereotype that we're introverts and maybe not very socially apt, but I find that to be the complete opposite of the reality. The profession is filled with a lot of creative spirits, a lot of people with big personalities, and you do need to be able to communicate.
Definitely. And I mean, you're 90% of the time you're presenting numbers to people who don't really understand numbers, or not to the same level as we do, and it's about being able to take that accounting information and present it in an understandable manner to the client. That's what they want. That's what they're paying you for at the end of the day. Otherwise, they would do it themselves. And that's why that is vital. Communication is vital. And again, whether it's dealing with clients during the good times or when they come at you with a problem or a query, you need to be able to pick up the phone or write back a good email, or know when it's appropriate to send an email, or when it's more appropriate to lift the phone and have a conversation with them and just say, look, here's the solution, here's what we want to look at for you. So yeah, definitely communication, teamwork as well, because I mean we don't work by ourselves. We're not introverts, as you say, and quite often, whether it's audits or accounts or no matter what part you're in, you're always working in a group, and it's vital. Leadership definitely comes through as you're moving up the ranks as well, and I think it's very important, because accountants don't often see accountancy, even in practice, as being business leaders, but you're running a business, and accountancy practice is a business as well. I think it's more obvious in industry, if you're in a senior role, that you've got more leadership, but no, in a practice, there's definitely strong leadership qualities required.
Oh, and you and I could talk all day. We're both chatters, but I'm conscious of time, and maybe reflecting back, final question, is it something you would recommend? If there's somebody out there considering chartered accountancy as a path, what would you say to them?
Wow, I would say fantastic career to go down. It's not easy, so think about it before you go down it. The exams aren't easy to get through either, but they're extremely rewarding, and when you come out the other end, the world is your oyster.
Brilliant. What a note to end on. Eoin, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and continued success on your own journey, and thanks again.
We'll go out to the sun now, Sinead. I'll see you later.
That's it, the barbecue's on. Super, thanks a million, Eoin. Take care.
Take care.
Bye now.